Addiction plagues over 46 million Americans aged 12 and older. But was there a chance earlier in their drug and alcohol use to stop from progressing to full-blown addiction? Welcome to our exploration of the 5 phases of addiction, from the initial experimentation to the devastating consequences. We're going to dive deep into the progression of addiction and how it can escalate to a point where those suffering lose everything they hold dear. If you're an addict in active addiction, this video should sound like your own progression to where you're at now. And if you are ready to find freedom in recovery, there are links in the description for free resources and how to contact me. If you're in recovery, this video should take you back and you should be able to just place your own story within each of these 5 phases we examined. And if you're a parent or loved one of someone in some of the beginning phases, this video will enlighten you on how important it is to take action now to help them from getting to the point so many of us had to get to. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our channel, feel free to share this video with anyone who needs to hear it, and let me know in the comments about anything you relate to or I may have missed. Your comment could literally be the one someone needed to see for themselves. The 5 phases of addiction are experimentation, regular use, risky use, dependence, and full-blown addiction. Each of these has warning signs you or your loved one are in that phase, and we're going to dive into these with some of my own personal experiences in each of these phases. First, experimentation. The average age of experimentation in the United States is 11 to 12 for boys and 13 to 14 for girls. This is the phase of first trying drugs and/or alcohol. The first substance I ever used was alcohol at a sleepover in my own house in the backyard with a tent. We had built this tent for the 3 of us to have a sleepover, and we knew we were going to sneak out and go to the 7-Eleven for the night shift guy who told us he would sell us some beers. We went down there, got them, came back to the tent, and drank them. I remember stumbling around in the yard a bit, and it was kind of like the DARE program glasses I had in my 4th grade class the year before. Signs that your child is beginning to experiment can range from mood and personality shifts like being withdrawn or depressed, less motivated, silent or not talking to you like they used to, mood swings to hostility or anger, being secretive or lying, or anything else that is a personality change you notice as a parent. Or behavioral changes like avoiding eye contact with you, locking their doors, missing school or other activities, disappearing for long periods of time, change in sleep patterns with long periods of sleeplessness followed by long periods of catch-up sleep. Remember that you are the parent and having a conversation with your child is never a bad thing. If they become angry at you for asking, this is a telltale sign of deceit with children and is something I personally used to use for my parents myself. Open communication about drugs and alcohol, and nowadays vaping, is extremely important for preventing addiction in your child's life. I say this with urgency because the adolescent overdose rate has doubled for the first time in history, then steadily increased year over year since 2020. And kids who vape are 36 times more likely to binge drink and use drugs. The second phase of addiction is the regular use phase, where someone consuming drugs or alcohol begins to seek the feeling they get from them on a more regular basis. Instead of experimenting on what it may feel like, they are now beginning to specifically use substances for the effect they have from them. My experimentation stage went quickly into regular use, and by the time I was 16, I had a fake ID. This stage begins to have more of the signs we discussed above, as well as some physical signs like a smell of smoke on clothes. Don't be afraid to smell dirty laundry, they're your kids. They may have poor hygiene from this phase as well, so be prepared for that. Frequently red or flushed face, or may have black marks or soot on their fingers. And if your child is wearing long sleeve shirts when it is warm weather, please examine their arms right away, because this could be hiding marks of IV use and we need to help them immediately. Some health signs of this phase could be frequent sickness, being unusually tired and sleepy or even lethargic, speech patterns change with slurring words, or they may talk fast-paced and rapid-fire, weight loss or gain suddenly, or vomiting when they are not sick with stomach flu. This can be hard to read, but you know your child, and vomiting is not a normal thing to happen more than like once a year. The third phase of addiction is risky use. This is a very dangerous phase if you find yourself or a loved one in this one. If you are watching this video for yourself, be honest with yourself when I explain this phase, because this is going to be the last phase where you have the ability to make a decision to stop. If you are watching for a loved one or a child, it is important you hold a safe space with them to communicate with them and have that open, honest communication. Do not take no for an answer with having that conversation. Make sure they know they are not in trouble and they can tell you anything because you only want to have an open conversation with them. You can also have them watch this video, and if you would like me to have a conversation with your child, I am more than happy to let them know what happened to me. Go to the contact link in the description. This phase of risky use is when we begin to give the substances precedence over things we care about and begin to continue using them even after experiencing consequences as a result of using. This showed up in my life by the way I treated my family and relationships around me. I chose to use and defend my use against my family and closest people to me, and was willing to argue with them about it. I began slipping with my grades and even losing some of my credibility and reputation with teachers and coaches in high school. I had to go back and make a lot of amends in my life, but not everyone gets the chance to. The fourth stage of addiction is dependence. This stage is when our body and mind begins to demand the substance, feeling as though it is necessary for our survival. The most obvious sign of dependence is the onset of symptoms of withdrawal without the substance. When you or your loved one is without their drug of choice or alcohol, and their body begins to crave it and have symptoms like sweating but feeling cold, body aches, runny nose, yawning and watery eyes, and stomach flu-like symptoms. These symptoms vary depending on the substance someone is withdrawing from, but for a more complete list and explanation of substances, I will link you at the end of this video. Dependence is a scary place to recognize you're in because it is your first realization that the drugs and alcohol are no longer completely under your control. All the times you thought to yourself or even said out loud to someone else that addiction won't happen to me get thrown out the window when you think of how many days in a row you have used this substance. At this phase, some kind of real help is almost always necessary in order to beat the substances, before finding yourself in the fifth and final stage, full-blown addiction, or substance use disorder. This phase is when a chronic and irreversible brain disease has fully developed and taken hold of your life. This most severe form of substance use disorder is marked by your inability to stop using the substance despite your desire and the mounting consequences and negative impact the substance has on your life. My addiction led me to this: being found unresponsive by the police from an overdose. You'd think seeing a video of your own dead body would be enough to make you stop using drugs. But I was in this fifth phase of addiction, and I couldn't stop. Even though I was put on probation and told I had to stop or go to jail, I couldn't stop. Even though I lost my job, lost my home, and everyone I cared about, I couldn't stop. I suffered 2 more years after that video before I was able to have the spiritual experience sufficient to bring me out of my addiction. If you are in this phase of addiction and you don't know what to do and are ready to do whatever it takes to recover, reach out to me in the contact link in the description and we will find the best solution. If you are ready and willing, recovery is possible, and the rewards of life in recovery are worth every bit of work I put in to be right here now speaking to you. If this video helped you in any way, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to help us reach more people in need of this message. Keep living recovered on purpose, and remember, God loves you, and so do I. If you want to dive deeper into opioid withdrawals and home remedies for them, click right here. Or if you want to listen to some positive affirmations for addicts in recovery, click right here.